Super excited to be speaking to Thabang today because for multiple reasons. I guess one, as someone who's worked in this industry for as long as you have, but also somebody who's worked in the industry in many guises, as a student, as an independent consultant, as a marketer and a brand builder. It's fascinating to just get a sense of what your journey has been in and outside the context of the people we call Afropolitans.
Having worked with the UCT Unilever Institute for the past year in my student life has really brought a richness to my understanding of black consumers that now puts it in the realm of academia. I think often we, as black consumers or as black marketers, feel these things at an intuitive level, which is probably the second reason I had to put forward that as a consumer myself, intuitively I understand this consumer. Where the problem comes in is where we become apologetic about it. White marketers have been as good as they are marketing to white middle class and white consumers because they live the life. What I've really strived to do is to understand my consumer independently of the way I see the world. And I think that really just sums up why I think I can sit here and add my 2 cents worth to the conversation.
And I'm chuckling because you also may have had an example of a client who said, but my consumers won't like that.
Yeah.
And having used themselves as a reference point.
As a reference
right?
point, exactly.
Or, God forbid, you get the client who uses his wife or her husband as the person to vet the accuracy of any marketing assignment. So it's a good thing that we have migrated, I guess, beyond the I like it, therefore they like it too. What is the consumer problem we're solving for? Because this is what I'm hearing you say.
I've seen myself sometimes get caught up with myself as a reference point, and I often have to slap myself because it's not about me. It is about that consumer. And I think I find that too many marketers haven't come through the rigor of FMCG specifically to help you understand consumer research and consumer insight thinking. Often people just kind of are happy to if I like it and my friends say it's cool, it must be cool.
But then Thabang, the marketer who's sitting in the room today and the people who are within the sound of our voices are saying, South Africa is a country that is black.
Right.
So the present is black, the future is colored. This is Trevor Noah, not my word. But so there's somebody who's saying, I've got a finite budget.
Right.
If you're asking me to go and dig into the depth and the breadth of this subsect we call consumers who are black, it's going to cost me a lot of money. So isn't it just easier for me to just go for the lowest common denominator? Because surely you, Thabang, may be offended about a piece of work that shows a black consumer dancing for a can of baked beans, but it works because I can see the baked beans moving off my shelf. So what's your argument when a marketer says the things that you're objecting to, Thabang, actually work? So why should I invest the time in understanding or enriching my understanding of the Afropolit?
I suppose it really depends on what your goals are. There's a very short-termist thinking in the idea that I've done this forever, it's worked, why should I change? The counter-argument to that is you don't know whether you're leaving money on the table or not because you've never really built a relationship with that consumer. So you're getting X volume based on Y work. Who's to say it shouldn't be P volume on Z work? So much bigger volume with a much stronger relationship with that consumer. So once you start to understand this consumer and then all the heterogeneity that comes with it. I mean, again, one of the things I caution when I do a lot of the work that I do with the black middle class is that please let's not go back to thinking about the black middle class as one amorphous lump of consumers. It is not. I mean, already we talk about 4 different archetypes. As in terms of the last study that we did with the Institute, we're looking probably at 6 or 7 archetypes in the next study that we'll be doing because we're finding such heterogeneity even in a subset of black consumers.
An abiding image I have in my mind is driving down Sam Street in Nongoma, which is where my mother comes from, with potholes the size of canyons.
In your low profile tires.
Yes, in my low profile tires. But and the beauty is walking past a telephone booth where this woman had a cell phone in one hand, she was speaking from a landline on the other, and I could only imagine what she was saying. One was, I don't have airtime on this thing, but I have got your number on it. So you look at those things and people who aren't familiar with our culture and how we consume things, they never would have imagined that. They would have imagined that if she's carrying a baby on her back, a pail of water on her head, she can only be going to a landline. She can never have a cell phone in her hand.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the ahas that came out for us was that people in South Africa, especially black consumers, in fact, I shouldn't say people, black consumers for the most part, live in these parallel, bizarro worlds. So on the one hand, you've got the formal economy. So great roads. When you pick up the phone, there's a plumber on the other end. You put together with your gluten-free life. There's this raft of choice in this environment, in this formal world. Everything is structured. Everything is strategically aligned. But at the same time, there's another bizarro aspect to your life, and we all know it, where things aren't so formal. There's spazas, there's skaftin, as opposed to lunch for work. It's a skaftin. It's building societies, burial societies, and there's Mkholiswano. The aha that came for us was that with black consumers, at no point do you flip a switch when you move between worlds. It's one world for you. It's a continuum. You don't even think about it as two separate worlds. Yet, unfortunately, for a lot of white marketers, they can't make the transition as seamlessly as we do. So for the most part, they need to flip the switch to get into the burial society environment. One of the other insights that came out quite interestingly was that even when we get wealthier and get more westernized, our faith still sits on a continuum. So the one end of the continuum, you've got anything from Masangoma, as people would call them, throwing bones, right up to Christianity. Unfortunately, for a lot of white consumers or white marketers that look into it, they look at it in a binary way. If you're not a Christian, you might be a voodoo sort. In between there, you've got mystics, mtandazi, you've got profeta, and people are quite happy to believe across the range. I mean, no black consumers are binary when it comes to religion, and they're not binary either when it comes to this formal versus informal world.
It is possible to be in it, but it's not possible to be with it. Mm-hmm. Because if you're coming at it from the outside, then you're coming in as a guest. I mean, we used to say this often, that if you want to deepen your understanding, then get off the bus. Don't be the tourist who sits in the bus and take the picture.
The air-conditioned environment.
Hug a few people.
We can teach you the words to the song, but you have to feel the music. Yeah. Absolutely true.
We've now identified these gaps. Do you think there's hope for brands to follow you and I in these shifting sands? The challenge for brands is no different from the challenges for the Afropolitan who moves out of Soweto into Midrand or North Cliff or Danefair, because that oscillation is an ever-present reality.
First off, if I answer it, I think brands have no choice. If I can be as blunt as that, they have no choice. You're going to have to figure out ways to understand this consumer. And I think the first place to start is quite intuitively to hire PLUs. So people like us, we talk about them in our research. PLUs straight away bring with them the nuance that you would need to go and research as a white marketing team to try and talk to black consumers. The second, I think, is that you need to be far more considered in your curiosity about the market. I think it's not the end of the world that a white marketer can't talk to a black consumer. I think that would be a bit of a fallacy. I think a black marketer with the right kind of training does it even better. But I can't imagine that you can say white marketers can't talk to this consumer. But the one thing that is a constant for both is this sense of curiosity. And the reality is that this consumer is constructing middle classness as we see it. While the idea of champagne and oysters is the typical way to consume that combo, this consumer will tell you, yeah, I get that, but I don't want oysters. I don't like oysters, but I do like the champagne. So I'll drink less champagne and sgob. And there's nothing you can do about that. And people that have understood it have seen a lot of gain. I've seen a lot of positivity come out of that. And whiskey is one of the most history and ritual-bound categories. Yet, they are the guys that went out and said to people, you know what? We'll give you a history of what our brands are all about. Here's the single malts, here the blended malts, here the hidden malts, yada, yada, yada. But however you choose to consume this is really your call. We'll give you the knowledge so that you can bear down on the detractors who will tell you, how dare you drink Johnny Walker Black with
Coke,
or even soda? How dare you? You're supposed to be taking it neat. And you can tell them, no. I know all about how you're supposed to drink it.
Yeah.
I choose to drink it this way because, damn it, I've paid for it. And it's just one of those things where I was quite surprised.
hopefully not on credit.
Let's use the credit for the right things. Yeah. So I think there are categories and some really odd categories. I mean that have really taken the bull by the horns and understood that this consumer is building middle classness on their own terms. So as a marketer, you need to understand that. I mean, I was joking with a friend the other day that when we were growing up, if you saw a guy in a Merc or in a Rolls Royce and he had the sound system playing at volumes that were deafening. We'd all say, the guys from Rolls Royce or the guys from Merc are going to come and get that car. And we actually believe this. I'm sure you know this. We'd all laugh and go, that Merc guys are coming to get that car. But middle classness has come with a whole, or in fact, it's just a nouveau riche, the idea of new money. And it's not just about black, just new money in general. Look at China. Has come with a whole new set of consumption habits. And now those rappers will put sound systems in the Rolls Royce that'll deafen even the most seasoned of music listeners, and it's cool. The volumes are up.
Yes.
Cognac. Who would have thought Busta Rhymes would have popularized Courvoisier? But you would never have thought a brand as steeped in tradition as Courvoisier. I mean, if you've been to the Courvoisier Chateau in France, you would shudder. Napoleon used to drink Courvoisier. Bloody Busta Rhymes now with his dirty dreads is going past the Courvoisier. But you have to understand that it comes with a whole new set of consumption directions. I think one of the things that's coming out for us is that this particular consumer in our country is just as determined to define consumption and middle classness on their terms. It worries me that in 2013, 2014, we are still discussing the idea of shipping up or shipping out. Surely. People should have gotten the message by now that this is where the future is.
And it's also just old school to say, build it, they'll come. You know, today people are saying, this is who I am, meet me where I am, or leave me alone, right?
Yes.
Here's what's poignant for me, is you are clearly saying the old normal does not apply.
Not at all.
So the marketer who will thrive and the marketer who is progressive is focusing on understanding what is this emerging normal.
Correct.
Because when you get it, you'll get me.
Correct. And make no mistake, there is commonality. There is commonality. I think people have similar value systems. Anything from education to the idea of easier living.
Yes.
But it's all in the interpretation of education as a value. For white middle class, for the most part, it's about maintaining their standard of living within white middle classness. For black consumers, education is the panacea for poverty. A black middle class consumer you talk about credit, there are a whole lot of consumers that will go out and get loans to make sure that their kids will be better off than they are by going to the right schools, by going to the right varsities. And interestingly, when we were growing up, people used to go to varsity and take any old degree. In fact, they used to laugh about the BA degree as a bugger old degree. UCT, Wits now, nothing but commerce, engineering degrees that these kids are getting into because people have, in just 20 years, understood how important education is, but the right kind of education is. For this consumer, it is about trajectory. It's about exactly that, leapfrogging from poverty to prosperity. I mean, one consumer put it so well. She said to us, education gets you out of poverty. Education gives you choices. So again, commonality is education, but the driver and the use of that value, or the importance of that value for the consumer, very different. The understanding of this consumer at the depth that we've come to understand it as the Institute says actually the real money, or the real pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, as it were, is in understanding the motivation.